way to show respect to the audience and respect your own business. It was a way to protect it.
But to be the man,
Austin 316 says I just whipped you.
we are the generation that eat. You make the rules, and we will.
Who is booking this crap?
Oh boy. More of that.
WWE stands for.
I am Mr. Richie Moon, and I'm Kayfabe Agent, and I'm Kayfabe Focus.
Position that I'd rather not be in, but the cream.
It's Kayfabe Avenue.
Ladies and gentlemen, heels and faces, casual wrestling fans, and all you smart marks, I am Mr. Richie Moon.
And I'm Kayfabe AJ.
I'm Kayfabe Focus.
And this is Kayfabe Avenue, and this is the Wednesday Night War 5 Points of War, minus the banter. Let's get straight into it. NXT came up this week.
Oh, NXT really came out.
NXT came out this week, man.
It's just in general.
Well,
it was NXT on everything.
I
Raw,
think
SmackDown, the War.
they basically turned up the dial on NXT because, it was basically the go home to the War Games and the Survivor Series.
Yeah.
So, they had to really dial up to make NXT like a legitimate brand because they're trying to make NXT look like Raw and SmackDown as well as compete with AEW. So,
this is probably their best week in doing that, trying to build a brand and have them stand on their own 2 feet.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people trying to take the shine out of NXT. They did win the ratings this week.
Yeah.
So that's the first point of will right there. Down. They did win this week.
Yep.
And people trying to take the lust away, saying that it was in part because Raw and SmackDown stars were on there. That's neither here nor there. Everybody knew going into Survivor Series, they'll be represented as the third legitimate brand in this pay-per-view. It was expected. Let's not make excuses as to why they did 1 million views. Just let's celebrate the fact that they did at all.
Yes.
They pulled the head of AEW on the ratings, but let's get straight to the match types and matchups.
Yeah. So the best match of the night, Focus. Who do you think had the best match of the? Oh, excuse me. Before we get that, can you give us just a rundown of Wednesday Night Dynamite, and then we can get NXT Live. Just get a quick rundown of both.
All right, so the first, I'm going to go down AEW Dynamite, which is on TNT. The first match we get is Rey Fenix versus Nick Jackson. In a spectacular match that everybody should watch.
Matt's injured, right? They're trying to play up the back injury.
Yeah.
Getting put through the stage or something like that, right?
Yep. Because, he got jackknifed through a table that was right next to the stage. I think it was last week, so...
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, moving on to the next match was Hikaru Shida versus Britt Baker. And Hikaru Shida beats Britt Baker once again. I think this is her second time beating her, I believe.
Yeah, I think she's number 1 in the rankings now.
Yeah, maybe she looks like she's about to go after the title again with Riho.
We'll see.
We'll see what happens. All right, then afterwards we have the Diamond Dozen Battle Royale in which Hangman Page and MJF beat Jimmy Havoc, Shawn Spears, Orange Cassidy, Billy Gunn, Kip Saban, Chuck Taylor, and Jungle Boy, and various other wrestlers. The thing with this Battle Royal is the final 2 participants win the match, and they have the match next week to determine who's the Diamond Dozen winner, and I believe they get a ring or something.
Yeah, then they get a ring. They haven't really gone into detail about it. I am willing to let it play out because they haven't really steered us wrong. So I'm just letting it play out and see what happens.
This format of the Battle Royale kind of took me out of it for a second. It made me confused because when it got to the end and they made the stop for the match, I'm like, oh, MJF lost. And it's like, no, they both won. And I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah,
I wasn't prepared for that. Final 2 are the winners.
Yeah.
Even with them explaining to me used to all the other battle royals in history.
That doesn't bother me too much.
It didn't bother, but it was like
Too
weird.
Yeah.
It was weird. It got me confused at first, but
Definitely said that.
I'm hoping that the match that they're gonna have next week, and it being a ring is the prize. I hope this is not a play off of when Cody was the Ring of Honor World Champion,
exactly
and he made a ring instead of having to wear the actual Ring of Honor Championship. So he had the Ring of Honor on his fist. I hope that's
totally
not what they
idea.
think. It probably is a Cody idea, and honestly, I think
he's trying to make him say, "Oh."
It was a good gimmick.
No,
it was a good gimmick in Ring of Honor, but let's let it stay.
You ain't trying to make him say, "Oh."
No, not in that way.
Make
Not
him say,
doing that.
Make him say,
Oh.
That's gonna be.
They're gonna be just as silent.
Doesn't have no payoff.
Yeah,
Listen,
it's a new bit right
the
now.
fans are gonna be just as silent as Masterpiece Concert.
Ooh.
But anyways, that gimmick I personally feel could stay in Ring of Honor. It was funny while he did it over there, but if this is gonna be the mid card championship level.
I mean, honestly,
but we don't know that yet. That's what we
I
got
mean,
to play
honestly,
out. We got to play out.
Oh, we gotta let it play out, of
honestly,
course. But I feel like if that's the route they're going,
we have to follow the tradition of every championship title has to be a belt.
I'm
can
not
it be
opposed.
something-
There've
can it be something?
been other
opposed to it.
things. There've
I'm
been
not
other
opposed to
things
it.
on the line throughout history.
Yeah.
Trophies and all types of.
I don't
other
think
things.
trophies ever work
But-
out on a consistent basis. Maybe like
Okay,
Slammies,
so you
maybe
make
like
a ring.
Slammies.
You make a ring. So we're gonna have to resize the ring every time for a new person.
That's like getting new title plates.
Yeah,
So
you
then
know,
everybody is gonna walk backstage with their own ring.
Maybe.
The prize is supposed to be prestigious. That's why there's only one championship.
I mean, when people win the
Maybe.
belt, they get their own copy of the belt and they have
not necessarily all the time.
Most people do.
Not necessarily all the time. Not the original championship that's getting passed around through the wrestlers. No, they'll probably get a replica to commemorate when they won.
Exactly.
But they're not keeping the title. The only person that comes to mind, like off the top of the head, that did that was Stone Cold Steve Austin with the last WWF belt before the Attitude Era.
But just like Focus said, I mean, maybe not. First of all, we don't even know if this is going to be a championship.
No, it wasn't even that. It was the Intercontinental Championship.
But like
he retired.
Even if it is, like I am not opposed to something different, depending how they do it.
I mean,
I think that's what it comes down to. How they do such thing.
Glow, they had like the crown for Queen in Glow or something like that. That's what.
Yeah, but WWE does that right now with the King of the Ring.
Well,
which is a gimmick that Corbin is writing on.
But
I don't know. Me personally, I don't want to see a ring become the mid-card championship. I think we're dwelling a little bit too much without knowing too many details. So let's just continue with the match card.
All right, so afterwards, Jericho comes out with a special announcement. SCU comes out. It's announced next week that Scorpio Sky is going to face Jericho for the World Championship.
Hilarious segment.
Yeah. A lot of reverse psychology in that promo.
Mm-hmm.
Next, we have Luchasaurus squashing Peter Avalon in less than a minute.
Luchasaurus.
As he should.
As he should, yes. Next, we have Private Party, and they beat Santana and Ortiz.
Hashtag HOG.
Hashtag rest in peace, Matt Travis.
Sucks.
Next, we have Kenny Omega. He challenges Pac next week. For the main event, we have Jonathan Moxley comes out. He cuts a promo. And then we have Jonathan Moxley versus Darby Allin, in which John Moxley wins.
We'll talk about it.
Another hardcore style
Crazy,
match.
crazy.
More towards John Moxley style.
Let's get into NXT Live.
So NXT, we have Becky Lynch comes out. She does her whole Damon skit. And she has a match with Rhea. And it goes to no contest as Shayna comes out with Maria and Jessamine Duke, and they attack them. Next, we have Kona Reeves versus Matt Riddle. However, Ricochet comes out, beats up Kona Reeves, takes him out, takes his place.
And has a good match. with
great match.
Good match with Matt Riddle.
With Matt Riddle taking that one. Next, we have the Undisputed Era versus the Revival.
Woo!
And
That's a great match.
And a great ass tag.
That's an instant classic right there. Straight up saying it. Right
that should be in every wrestling schools.
Got a little bit of SmackDown.
That's how you. That is a tag team match. That is how you work a tag team match.
So next we have Kylie Ray as she beat Dakota Kai. Afterwards, SmackDown women's division came out, then the women's Raw division came out, then the NXT came out. There was a big brawl, and then they go to the commercial, and then next we have the Viking Raiders against what's this
Don't
team?
even ask me.
Forgot who they are.
I'm pretty sure the Viking Raiders won though.
Yeah, but the Viking Raiders won, of course.
Oh, the Forgotten Sons.
So that's who they are. Yes.
Yeah, the Forgotten Sons.
So for the main event, we have a ladder match to determine the War Games advantage. We have Adam Cole on one side,
Baby!
and then we have Dijakovic
Ciampa.
on the other side for Team Ciampa. Adam Cole wins this one, and there's a huge brawl afterwards, but we'll get into that. And that's NXT
NXT Live and Wednesday Night
versus
Dynamite.
Dynamite.
So as we revealed, NXT pulled away with the ratings for this week, the first time since
first time since
the war started. So
yeah,
tides turned for this week. Let's see if they could pick it up next week and keep that streak going, or see if the tide goes back to AEW. And
so what do you guys think was the best match of the night?
The best match of the night, I would have to say Adam Cole versus Dijakovic.
That's my match of the night as well. Just so much on the line with the advantage going into War Games. We have the hard-hitting atmosphere of a ladder match. It gave all the elements. So definitely I had to give it to NXT. But honorable mention for AEW's behalf was the Darby Allin versus Jon Moxley. I liked a lot of what they did. I think personally the body bag segment was a little bit overdone. I get it, that's Darby Allin's thing. I can see less of it though. And they did have a good back and forth match with Jon Moxley doing this crazy Death Rider off the turnbuckle, which was great to see.
The Avalanche Paradigm shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, that was fire. I do think, I had a hard time picking between my only issue with the Adam Cole and Dominic Dijakovic match is that I knew that Adam Cole was going to win. I never thought for 1 second that, and that's what kind of took me out of it a little bit. Not taking anything away from the match. I had a hard time picking between the Revival and the Undisputed Era versus Ray Phoenix and Nick Jackson. I think I'm going to actually go. It's still NXT. I'm going to go with the Undisputed Era and the Revival. I think that was such a good match. Psychology, ring work, the length of it, just Revival.
I mean,
goodness gracious.
Bobby Fish and O'Reilly are just seasoned tag team together. So
both of them, all four of them.
They're the best tag team in the world.
You know what I'm saying? If you wanted to argue that, you definitely can. Mm-hmm. That was just a really good match. So NXT wins the ratings.
And nobody could beat his air guitar.
Just nobody. Not even you, Hogan. Not even your prime.
Not
96.
even you, brother.
Not even you, brother. You know what I'm saying?
All right, so that's so far 2-0 for NXT.
So most intrigue for next week.
Most intrigue, I have to give it again. NXT. Simple fact, we had a lot riding on this episode. It was going into War Games. It's going into Survivor Series. And I also want to see if they could keep the momentum going into next week and if they actually could pull the ratings war victory. You know, ratings don't matter so much in this war to me because, you know, numbers can be played with. You know, it depends on reruns and, you know, DVRs and all this stuff. But I think NXT hit the nail on the head in every category and pretty much was dominating Raw, SmackDown.
Well, numbers do matter in demographics. That's what matters. The overall number really doesn't necessarily matter. But the demographics do matter. I will say that demographics actually do matter.
Yeah, but
I think
in every TV show, not even just wrestling, like in every across the board, like that, demographics are really, really important.
I think with me, I'm gonna have to go with AEW for this category. Just for the simple fact of we have a match that I've been wanting for a while that they've been teasing for. Scorpio Sky versus Chris Jericho for the world title. You know, I called that a long time ago when Chris won the original one. He was like, Scorpio Sky, you're not gonna get that. I'm like, yo,
when
that's
the night he won the title,
Right,
he
like,
won the
he's-
championship.
he's
that's
definitely-
right
And
before he
did
said.
the
He's
little
gonna
bit
be
of
one
the
of the
Buggy
guys.
promo.
That's right before he said that.
It
Right
was
before he said
it was
that.
actually a part of his promo when he told Scorpio Sky, "You'll never get a shot."
So
shot at
it's
this."
just goes to show that long-term booking also pays off. And then also another thing from AEW that I'm really looking forward is the Hangman versus MJF angle they got right now. Especially since if you guys watch BTE, Hangman left the league.
Yeah.
So
man,
Hangman
yeah.
is on his own right now against MJF for this Diamond Ring, which we're still not sure if it's a mid-card title or not, but we'll see what happens. And that's
I
what
really
I'm
hope
intrigued.
it's not a mid-card title.
I hope it's not either. But I gotta mine will focus. I think the go home show for NXT was awesome. The War Games was awesome. But as far as next week episode, I'm really looking forward to Dynamite because like Scorpio Sky, Chris Jericho, that happened off a throwaway line. It's just that's my type of storytelling. It kind of reminds me of the MCU. Like you think this one little throwaway line means nothing, then boom, now it's a championship match, and it all makes sense. I want to see what the Dynamite ring is about.
Yeah.
I want to see Cody's going to be back next week. You know what I'm saying? He's going to address what happened with MJF and Wardlow. You know what I'm saying? So they're in Chicago. We're all in starting.
Kenny versus Pac next week.
Kenny versus Pop next week. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot going on next week. I feel like with NXT is going to be like a reset, just like how AEW was last week. Coming home from off the pay-per-view, it's a reset, building towards the next takeover. So I'm looking forward to seeing AEW next week. So I think that's 2-1. What was the best storyline of the night between AEW and NXT? Let's start with you, AJ.
Put me in the hot seat.
I'll put you in the hot seat, man.
Didn't even really think about
Yeah,
that.
man. Best storyline.
Best
It was a lot. It was a lot,
Uh-huh.
man.
Yeah, there was.
I'll give you a little time.
Definitely.
I'll give you a little time to think. So on NXT, we're building towards War Games. We're building towards Survivor Series. We had the ladder match. We had that crazy tag team match with Undisputed Era and the Revival. On AEW, we had the Le Champion, which I thought that promo was hilarious. When he couldn't say he couldn't say I'm sorry.
If I'm gonna base it based on like a storyline, an individual storyline, not the overall storyline of the whole show, which NXT was really focused on getting them to War Games and getting them to Survivor Series.
Mhm.
I'd give it to AEW in this category then. The Scorpio Sky, Chris Jericho thing for the same reasons, the long-term storyline booking, and not only that, the way he did it. It was like, I don't want a title match. Like, I don't need to have a title match against you. Oh, you want a title match? I'll give you a title match. So, you know, that promo, the fact that it's been since the beginning of his reign, like I think that is a good development that we saw for a long time coming anyways for Scorpio Sky.
And then, like for Scorpio Sky, when he shook his hand and he cut that promo, I've been waiting for 15 years for this opportunity.
Yeah.
That
So,
switch.
You know,
just
it
like-
was that realism. Like you could feel that he really was waiting 15 years for that opportunity.
So yeah, I definitely give this one to AEW because you know, just that singular storyline, it's developing Scorpio Sky, and if it wasn't for Daniels getting injured, we wouldn't even have Scorpio Sky as tag team champion, and we probably have this feud between him and Jericho a lot sooner. So I thought it was something we weren't gonna get to see because of the situation,
Mhm.
and now that we do get to see, regardless if he wins or loses, it's just good things for Scorpio Sky. So I give it to AEW.
For all the same reasons for Scorpio Sky, because I feel like the tag team, when I look back at it now in retrospective, I feel like the tag team tournament was really made to put Scorpio Sky over. He came in, he wasn't supposed to be in a tag team match. He wrestled in jeans, got over like crazy. I was there at that Philly show. He's been the one that made the big moves to win all the matches. He pinned Phoenix, then he pinned Jericho to put himself in this position. So I feel like all this has been culminated for Scorpio Sky. Jericho, when he's putting over AEW, he always mentions Scorpio Sky. So I think
He puts over
everybody.
as much of a douchebag he tries to push
puts over
himself
everybody.
on TV. He puts over the entire roster.
Even Cody.
he really
A
has
little bit
faith
of
in
the
a lot of
overlay.
these guys.
A little bit of the overlay. You know what I'm saying? Everybody getting a little bit of the overlay. Because that's an old school rule, and he was actually saying that to Matt Riddle about Goldberg. He's like, listen, you can say whatever you want, but at the end of the day, you gotta respect it, because you can call this man an old man, but you know what? When they book it, Matt Riddle, guess what? Goldberg's gonna win. So that old man that you've been talking crap about now just beat you. So talk trash about him, but you still put him over at the end of it because, you know, wrestling. But
Goldberg is Goldberg.
yeah, Goldberg's Goldberg. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? But yeah, man.
So
This
that's
is
the overall show.
I thought NXT was gonna kind of take this in a clean sweep. I ain't gonna lie to you.
I thought so too in the beginning.
But now we cutting it,
Really breaking it
crossing
down.
the T's and dotting the I's.
I'm gonna have to
Best
give it
overall show I gotta
I'm-
give
I'm
it to
gonna have
NXT.
Wait, I didn't say my next.
For the
Next week. I'm gonna say the storyline that's really captivating for me, is Kairi Sane and Io Shirai, two best friends on different sides, staring down at each other, both turned to the evil dark side. What will happen next?
That was a cool stare down, because they just stopped them, just like it was like they're looking in the mirror, just like
It was like watching anime, like Nani,
yeah, Nani?
Ew, Kairi.
It was also kind of like Spider-Man me and pointing at each other,
Right,
like
right.
you turn evil.
You turn evil. I turn evil.
Facts.
Like I wonder if is Io gonna join the Pirates of Tomorrow.
She's too much of one.
and become the Black Lotus
Nah,
trio.
nah.
they're gonna keep her on NXT. Like there's no more of this calling up. It's
crossing over. It's crossing over. It's crossing over. Yeah, it's crossing over.
I think EO's a big part of solidifying NXT's women's division. And
I don't
right
know,
now,
there's a lot
NXT's
of-
women's division
I
is
feel like-
way better than Raw and SmackDown.
I
in
feel
my
like
opinion.
That's
EO.
why they should probably give us because
I feel
give one to.
I feel like EO should be the one to take the belt from Shane. I
Lacey Evans to NXT.
I'm feeling Io Shirai right now. Her music, her entrance, her moveset, her
look,
style, her look, everything. Io
the way
just
she acts in the ring.
she's bringing all. She wants smoke.
She doesn't have to cut
Gotta have
promos.
that.
See, that's that Queen's Quest. Io Shirai.
Yeah, she doesn't have to cut like major promos.
She doesn't have
Everything else she's doing is completing her package.
Exactly.
But so it
Let's
was
get it.
still
Still 2-1.
2-2,
Yeah.
right? Because of his
Yeah.
for NXT as well.
So who was this? So it come
Oh
down.
no, we both went for AEW.
We're
Oh
both
yeah,
for
so it
AEW.
is 2-2.
So who is the best overall show?
Well, I kinda-
NXT Live or Wednesday Night Dynamite?
I jumped over Focus when he was trying to explain, and I already gave my pick. NXT was the better overall show. A lot going on, you know, storylines moving forward. Yeah, I give it to NXT.
How about you, Focus?
Yeah, I mean, you have to give it to NXT, but you got to understand that it's a go home show to a pay per view, so of course they were gonna pull out all.
That's
this
not an
content and
excuse.
everything.
That wasn't a determining factor last week when it was AEW's go home show.
Yeah, and I said that too.
It wasn't a determining factor. So
It was to me that it was a determining factor that it was their go home show, and they wanted to pull out all the stars. It's the same thing. That's why I felt they won that week, because NXT did have a good show that week as well.
yeah, but I don't think it's the same thing. The Chris Jericho thing I mentioned earlier. We're taking steam away from a company or a show because it's the go home and they threw extra stars on it.
It's
I
not the
don't
fact that they
like we're gonna have these go home shows every month.
But the thing is,
going forward,
the thing
so-
is that it's not the fact that it's the stars. Is that they wanted people to tune into the pay per view. So of course they're gonna dial up a little bit, get a little bit more edgier, take a little bit more risk, especially with this ladder match and everything.
But
especially after what happened with Mia.
I mean, I get what you're saying. I
I
just don't like the wording of we have to give it to NXT because it was a go home show. No, it was a good overall show.
Yeah.
That's why
It is
we
a
give
good
it
overall
to NXT or we give it to AEW, not because it's a go home and they threw balls to the wall that we have to just automatically pick it. Like that's I guess the wording. Like we're understanding each other, but the wording originally that's what the debate was about.
That's the reason
But
why they went, because they went balls to the wall for it.
I'm interested to see.
They came out swinging for people to watch this pay per view.
Facts.
I mean, they tried to do the same thing with AEW, come on swimming with the Battle Royal,
Yeah.
which is kind of tournament style, and the Darby Allin match, a lot of stuff. So They both are going
They
balls to
bring
the
it-
wall. They
both-
are bringing an A game.
Both of them bring their A games every single week.
But
That's the thing. That's why I feel like what he's saying is
I feel
diminishing
like
a little bit.
with NXT,
So they're
they
not
don't-
bringing it balls to the wall because it's not a goal.
Some
I
people-
feel like with NXT, they're not going as hard as they could. It's like, they dialed it up this week, but it's like next week, are they gonna have that same consistency where they
the
can
match level consistency,
consistency?
week in and week out, the matches
but
are
I'm
arguably
not
way
talking about
better.
just the match. I'm talking about overall. As a
Right.
presentation.
No, I get it.
You can't run the takeover. You can't run the war game storyline takeover
That's what I'm
storyline
saying.
forever.
You can't do this.
But
Yeah,
I'm not.
they were doing good,
but I'm not. Yeah, I'm not really worried about. I'm not worried about NXT. If anything, the main roster is to be worried about. But I don't think NXT. I think they're going to continue on. I definitely think that AEW is going to immediately take the ratings back again next week.
Like you said, that argument makes sense against a Raw and SmackDown.
Yeah.
That yes, they've been better in my eyes. They've been a little bit
They
better
have been.
because of the takeover Survivor Series stuff.
NXT doesn't need a main roster. NXT doesn't even make
NXT really doesn't.
NXT storylines is going to be.
They're
A1.
succeeding more because of the little sprinkling of stars here.
Yeah.
But I also don't want to see a complete transition of half main roster stars populating NXT.
Yeah, not half.
NXT succeeding based off who they got.
This is the extension of the wild card rule right now.
I feel like people were kind of giving this win to NXT with the asterisk because it was a lot of superstars from Raw and SmackDown. I don't look at it as an asterisk.
It's not an asterisk.
I don't look at it as
and me either.
That's
And
just the reason.
I think that's an unfair.
I feel that's just the reason.
But that's just the reason, though.
That's just the
That
reason.
is just
It's
the
not- it's
reason.
not an
though.
asterisk.
That is just the
Nah,
reason.
that's the storyline.
But at the same time, I don't want to take
That's the
anything
storylines
away.
culminating. That's the
I don't
great
wanna take
match.
anything
That's
away
the
from
great
NXT.
match quality. 2 weeks in a row, they gave us crazy ladder matches. One for the women, one for the men. Like
That's why I
they
don't want
didn't
to
just
take
go
anything away from
balls
it.
to the wall. Last week they didn't have that much SmackDown or Raw. They haven't had actually really much Raw and SmackDown interaction on the shows, period. Outside of the OC, that was it. This week was the first week that they actually brought everything. So that's what I'm saying. If I compare this week to last week's NXT, it was just as good to me. It was just as good. It wasn't because it was a go home and we had the WWE main roster on.
I feel like the reason why they won the reason why NXT won the ratings is because of the main roster. That's my personal opinion.
And for the ratings, I definitely agree with that because, of course, the main roster is going to bring eyes. But now that's why I said I want to see next week if they can keep that momentum because now the couple of people that was like, oh shit, my favorite stars from Raw and SmackDown are going to be on this show. Now they got to see what NXT is all about because the good thing that they did, they have a well balanced card that it let some Raw and SmackDown guys shine on the card, but it was still NXT show.
Yeah.
You like the wars here and there and the run-ins here and there, but that wasn't the entirety of the show. They had great matches that night.
So let me be the tiebreaker. I always just enjoy watching AEW more. I do feel like overall.
No, we actually went for the same people.
I feel like overall.
We didn't burn on opposing ends.
No.
It was just the
No,
comment of
no. I mean for the best overall show. I still haven't said who the best overall show. Like both. Best over. I mean, I do think it was NXT, but I just enjoy watching AEW more. It's just I think it's kind of like wine. It's kind of like food. It's a preference.
it's just visually more appealing.
That's not even that. It's the way they tell their stories. I feel like
But that's exactly what it is. It is the visual of their storylines. That's literally what it is. It's visually appealing all around.
It's the BT.
Their storylines are more believable.
The storylines are more believable. You
because
get
that's
more
really
invested in
them.
the characters.
That's really them acting how they would act in real life.
Yeah.
Exactly. You watch BTE, you get invested in the characters. You see, you know what I'm saying? You're seeing the culmination of this, as opposed to...
This isn't water.
Just pointing out, this ain't water. Shout out to Power Party, #HOG. With that being said, NXT has won the week just by the skin of their teeth. Just by the skin of their teeth. I personally think AEW is going to bring all the smoking tin next week. But we will get there when we get there. With that being said, Focus. Where can they find you at, sir?
Kayfabe_Focus.
AJ, where can they find you at, sir?
At Kayfabe_AJ on Instagram.
You can find me at Mr. Richie Moore or at Kayfabe Avenue. Join our Facebook group on Facebook, Kayfabe Avenue. Subscribe to us on YouTube. We are not on the Twitter. Join us on Instagram, all at Kayfabe Avenue. With that being said, You know that we can do this all day, but I must bid you a farewell. Kenny, take us home.
Goodbye. Mwah. And good night. Bang.